What's going on, guys? In today's video, we're checking out the all-new Magic Keyboard and comparing it against the previous generation. In addition to that, I'm also going to go ahead and check out what we can do to actually make the older Magic Keyboard compatible to the new iPad Pros and vice versa. So stick around and let's begin. So here it is. I do have both the Magic Keyboards, as you can see right here. This is the black one. This is also the black one. This is the new generation, which is the aluminum finish up top. And this is the previous generation, which was the same plastic material that we see on top of here. Also located right here. And obviously we do have a trackpad. And the trackpad on the new one is much larger. Now the MSRP price for this was $299, so $300 if you round up. As time making this video, you can find that the 11-inch version is actually $250, so it's currently on sale. But then if you could go with the larger screen body for the iPad Pro, it's $350. But it's currently on sale on Amazon for $280 for the older generation Magic Keyboard. And for the new 13-inch iPad Pros, it's $350. So price didn't really change. Just since this is an older model, you're likely to find this thing being on sale. But the keyboard itself is identical, other than the function row that you see on the second generation. And this is the second generation iPad Pro, thinner, a little bit thinner than previous. Oh, I'm sorry, this fooled me. No, this is actually the previous generation iPad Pro. Here we are, this is the new one. So even though people are like freaking out how thin it is, that's thinner than the Apple Pencil, it's the older generation body style is still thinner than the Apple Pencil. It is noticeably thinner, I'll just say that. But before we get sidetracked, here we go. Here's the backlit, maxed out on the new iPad Pro. So the keyboard brightness is on max for the second generation Magic Keyboard. And here it is maxed on the older generation. I do want to say it's slightly more brighter. It illuminates about much more evenly compared to the previous generation because, yeah, it does illuminate the key as well. But this one looks like a traditional MacBook illumination. And of course you could adjust it or turn it off completely from 0 to 100%. Now, even though this does have a larger trackpad, if you listen to it closely, let me get the mic pretty close. That's the new Magic Keyboard, right? Now let's listen to the old one. It's definitely much louder, and the clicking tactic sound that it makes sounds like that. This one, on the new one, sounds like this. It's more subtle, but definitely does give you the correct feedback that we all know and love. But Apple wasn't joking when they said they actually integrated like a new haptic feedback motor in this, because you can actually go into your iPad settings and disable this. It definitely is a massive difference enabling or disable it. You'll find it in the system settings in the general tab, and where it says trackpad, you'll see system haptics, and you can feel the difference. Now in terms of angle positions, here we go. The angle is much more aggressive on the previous generation Magic Keyboard. Hopefully this camera right here could pick this up. But this is how it looks like on the old school Magic Keyboard in this flat, low position. And this is how it looks like on the new one. Definitely is noticeable. As side by side, this is the lowest for the second generation. And if we move it down, you can also tilt it like this if you really need to. But resting on its hinge, basically, that is all the angles. On the older one, it definitely pops out much more compared to the new generation Magic Keyboard, as you see right here. Side-by-side comparison, how it is when it's locks into place. But of course, if you need to, you can always just lower it to your own personal preference. Just far back, the newer one definitely does tilt back more, much more than the previous generation. Weight-wise, let's see, I do have a scale where we can actually go ahead and measure and weigh how much the new Magic Keyboard weighs without the tablet attached. I'm going to switch this to grams. So the 11-inch Magic Keyboard, the new generation, is about 585 grams. Meanwhile, the older generation is 603. So it's definitely much lighter, which is quite impressive, especially since you take consideration that it has function keys on top, as well as an aluminum top body that definitely does allow this to feel much more premium than ever before. But aside from the function row key that you see up here, you do have a lock ability where you can securely lock your iPad by simply just hitting the lock button. And of course, you have the functional escape key finally on the iPad as well. And in terms of functions, if you hold down the command key, A little shortcut menu will actually pop up showing you all the cool shortcuts you could do with the keyboard, showing you the many different shortcuts you could do. The previous generation Magic Keyboard also had the same exact ability. So something that I did personally notice is the connection ports. You see, this is the new iPad Pro, right? And when we compare it against the previous generation iPad Pro, the connector ports are not, they're still there. They're not like placed differently or anything like that. If I take like a tape measure right here as an example, it's literally the same distance apart. Apple, I feel like, could have easily made the old iPad Pro be compatible with the latest generation Magic Keyboard because the pins do line up. The only thing causing it not to line up correctly is the magnets. Let me see if I can actually force it to connect though. I'm holding it in place, but it's not activating. So there's clearly something in here in the software that also is preventing it from communicating with the Magic Keyboard. And then something that I also discovered previously on my previous video is if I take a magnet binder and we look at the magnets right here, notice how this one is a 3x3 block. Over here, that 3x3 block has been altered, preventing it to communicate and connect properly with the new Magic Keyboard. Everything has been altered here. So you still have magnets in the same placements, just they're lined up differently. Hopefully the camera could pick that up, but there's also very small magnets next to one another over here, where this one still has it, just different layout than it previously was. Same applies for the Apple Pencil, where you have this little weird design magnet strips. Over here is just one single block on the older generation iPads. So maybe somebody could make like an adapter, a case that will attach on here that realign the magnets to communicate with the latest generation Magic Keyboard. But as of right now, there's nothing like that. But maybe it's a possibility you could actually make the new Magic Keyboard work on the older iPad Pro. But that's just me just assuming that it's possible. Again, it could be software lock as well. But in terms of everything else, like you still have your USB-C port on the side right here where you could charge your iPad while it's connected with the Magic Keyboard. No data transfer, unfortunately. And new this time is the hinge itself. It's actually exposed, where previously it was wrapped around here. And I had this Magic Keyboard ever since day one, and I've noticed the hinge is starting to peel off right here. It still will work, but it's just not like how it used to be, unfortunately. So probably that's the reason why Apple decided to have this part exposed to prevent that from happening, which makes sense. It is prone to get scratched, but I rather take scratch marks over actual case itself falling apart. And then if we attach the iPad back into case itself, an issue that I faced with the old Magic Keyboard was the fact that whenever you laid the iPad flat and you would reopen it, the keyboard imprints will be on top of the screen. Meanwhile, the new Magic Keyboard, I've noticed, has a nice little raise right here, preventing that from happening. So there is a nice little lip right here that goes up that gives the screen a nice little gap so the key imprints doesn't stay on your display on your iPad. So that's kind of nice. But aside from that, typing experience wise, I can't really 100% notice the difference between the old school Magic Keyboard and the new Magic Keyboard. But when it comes to the trackpad feedback, it's definitely much more significant. It just feels more premium. So I think the reason why Apple decided to do this is to just allow their Magic Keyboard to cost the same by preventing the older iPad models to be able to use the latest Magic Keyboard, specifically the iPad Pro, because the latest generation iPad Air is compatible with only the old Magic Keyboard. But since you can find the old Magic Keyboard on sale, I guess that kind of makes up for it being an older Magic Keyboard model, because the packaging is almost identical. This is the new one and this is the old one. Literally is identical, aside from the price sticker that they added here. But now is the infinite lap test. I cannot leave this, or I can't forget to leave this out. So this is the first generation Magic Keyboard, right? There once was an issue, was it? I hardly doubt that the second generation version of the Magic Keyboard makes a massive difference. So here it is, second generation Magic Keyboard. I don't know there's a difference. It's 100% identical. Even after using it for a couple of days now, I thought I was using the old school Magic Keyboard. It's until I touched the aluminum top portion as well. I'm like, oh, that's right. This is the second generation, and I got function roll keys. I could adjust the brightness. So no concerns here about typing abilities. It's basically the same like the older generation. So there you guys have it. That is the side-by-side comparison against the iPad Pro with the Magic Keyboard. So hopefully I was able to answer your question and concerns and other things you may want to know, like this magnifier thing. I think that was kind of cool and interesting. I'll be sure to include links to everything in the video description down below. But if you'd like to watch more, maybe you want to see a comparison between the M1 iPad Pro against the latest M4 iPad Pro, I covered that video right over there. Thank you so much for watching.